Hollywood since 1923.
And at the present time, you own and operate the Walt Disney Studio at Burbank, California?
Well, I'm one of the owners.
And how many people are employed there, approximately?
At the present time, about 600.
And what is the approximate?
Well, we have sold them some films a good many years ago. They bought the Three Little Pigs and used it through Russia. And they looked at a lot of our pictures, and I think they ran a lot of them in Russia, but then turned around and turned them back to us and said they didn't want them. They didn't suit their purposes.
Are these films, the dialogue, translated into the various foreign languages?
Of my boys, my artists, came to me and told me that Mr. Sorrell, Herbert Sorrell, was...
Is that Herbert K. Sorrell?
Herbert K. Sorrell was trying to take them over. And I explained to him that it was none of my concern, that I'd been cautioned to not even talk with any of my boys on labor. And they said it wasn't a matter of labor, that it was just a matter of them not wanting to go with Sorrell, and they had heard that I was going to sign with Sorrell. And they said that they wanted an election to prove that Sorrell didn't have the majority, and I said I had a right to demand an election. So when Sorrell came, I demanded an election, and Sorrell wanted me to sign on a bunch of cards that he had there that he claimed were the majority, but the other side had claimed the same thing. And I told Mr. Sorrell that there's only one way for me to go, and that was an election, and that's what the law had set up. But the National Labor Board was for that purpose, and he laughed at me, and he said that he used the Labor Board as it suited his purposes, and that he had lost some election. He'd been sucker enough to go for that Labor Board ballot. He lost some election, I can't remember the name of the place, by one vote. Said it took him 2 years to get it back, and he said he would strike, and that was his weapon. He said, I have all the tools of trade sharpened, that I couldn't stand the ridicule or the smear of a strike. And I told him it was a matter of principle with me, that I couldn't go on working with my boys, feeling I had sold them down the river to him on his say-so. And he laughed at me and told me that I was naive, I was foolish. He said, you can't stand this strike, that I'll smear you and I'll make a dust bowl out of your place if I choose to.
I didn't hear that last.
He said he'd make a dust bowl out of my plant. And I told him I'd have to go that way. I was sorry that he might be able to do all that, but I'd have to stand on that. Well, the result was that he struck. I believed at that time that Mr. Sorrell was a communist because of all the things that I had heard and had seen his name appearing on many of the Commie Front things. And when he pulled the strike, the first people to smear me and put me on the unfair list were all of the Commie Front organizations. I can't remember them all, they've changed so often, but one that's clear in my mind is the League of Women Voters, the People's World, the Daily Worker, and the PM magazine in New York. They smeared me. Nobody came near to find out what the true facts of the thing were. And I even went into the same smear in South America through some commie periodicals in South America, and generally throughout the world, all the commie groups.
That conversation?
Well, I didn't pull my punches on how I felt. And he evidently heard that I had called them all a bunch of communists, and I believe they are. And at a meeting, he leaned over and he said that you think I'm a communist, don't you? And I told him that all I knew was what I'd heard and what I'd seen. And he laughed and said, well, I used their money to finance my strike of 1937. And he said that he got the money through a personal check of some actor, and I don't know who that came. He didn't even name the actor. I didn't go into it any further. I just listened.
Can you name any other individuals that were active at the time?
I don't believe it's a political party. I believe it's an un-American thing. And the thing that I resent the most is that they are able to get into these unions and take them over and represent to the world that a group of people that are in my plant that I know are good 100% Americans are trapped by this group, and they're represented to the world as supporting all of those ideologies, and it's not so. And I feel that they really ought to be smoked out and shown up for what they are, so that all the good free causes in this country, all the liberalisms that really are American, can go out without this taint of communism. That's my sincere feelings on it.
Do you feel that there is a threat?
Knows I qualify to saying that. I just feel that the thing can be proven un-American, that it ought to be outlawed, and I think that some way should be done without interfering with the rights of people, and I think that will be done. I have that faith. Without interfering, I mean with the good American rights that we all have now and we want to preserve.
Do you have any suggestions to offer as to how the industry can be helped in fighting this menace?
Well, I think there's a good start toward it. I know that I've been handicapped out there in fighting it because they've been hiding behind the labor setup. They get themselves closely tied up in the labor thing so that if you try to get rid of them, they'd make a labor case out of it. And I think if they can clean them out of the labor unions and get our unions, I believe in the American way of labor unions, and to keep them clean, we got to fight for it.
That's all the questions I have, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. States and in the world, I think you, as a creator of entertainment, probably